How we doing?
You're ready to go.
Right.
5.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's the day after St. Patrick's Day, so I apologize for us being a couple minutes late. I think you could understand that. Like I said, it's 1823 and just happy to be back with you. Got my hair cut, as you can see. Um, anyway, so let me just give an update on Steve. He's doing better every day. So again, the outpouring of love and support that he's gotten has just been absolutely amazing from all of his friends, and you know, really, it's just been touching to see. And I can't make a prediction of when Steve will be back with us, but he's going to do everything in his power to get here because he misses the show and this is our loyal listeners. So thanks for the thoughts and prayers and all that kind of stuff. And we don't take that for granted here. And I just want to, we're going to jump right into our monologue right this week. And of course, our monologue is sponsored by Coriano Trucking, Summerhill, New York, who's, one of our loyal listeners and dear friends of ours that has shown all the support that we could possibly have imagined. And we thank him for his continued support of the show. So the monologue, I'm just going to start it right off. March Madness. It was absolutely 2 great days of college basketball, and like I said, it's an event that the regular season doesn't get a lot of hype, because it's all about who's getting in the tournament and so forth. What a spectacular day! So many different things occurred. A number 16 seed, Fairleigh Dickinson from Hackensack, New Jersey, literally 20 minutes from here, goes in and upsets, which I actually brought up last week on the show, that Purdue, notorious first round getting knocked out. I saw them, they were number one a couple different times this year, and they just couldn't hold the spot, so they were very vulnerable. And Fairleigh Dickinson just pulled off an absolutely amazing thing, and that's what makes March Madness so awesome. And you got a whole full slate of games today too. Like I said, my pick was UCLA to win the whole thing, so they're still in. It's going to be a lot of good games today. You have to think about that. New Jersey's doing pretty good, Rob. I know you're sitting behind the curtain here, but Princeton beats Arizona. And another big upset was Furman beating Virginia. So I guess this is what they call bracket busters, right? Because nobody had those 3 games. Some people, Furman was a tougher opponent for Virginia than we thought, and they proved it. Big games today, Duke, Tennessee, Princeton, right? So they move on. They're playing Missouri. That's possible chance they could pull this off too. It'd be an absolute stunner to make it to the Sweet 16, but it's just. And again, the monologue is just focused on March Madness and the big dance and whatever you want to call it, and it's just exciting, right? NFL's over. Basketball, the play it doesn't start till the playoffs, but the NHL hockey season is underway. So there's tons of sports for sports fans, and it's just been absolutely great. So, Bob, we got some other just UCLA's got to play Gonzaga, so Gonzaga in a great thing. And actually, Rob brought up before the show that if Fairleigh Dickinson wins, and they have a very winnable game. They're playing Florida Atlantic in this tomorrow. and they could play in Madison Square Garden. It would just be an incredible story. So enjoy, the next round. It's all day today, tonight, tomorrow, and we take a little break, and then we come back with the Sweet 16 on Thursday. But what a great time for sports. And college basketball is absolutely very exciting, and I hope you guys are watching. So I want to move on to the NFL because there's been a lot of news, right? There's the free agents, market has opened and a lot of different signings, and some of them we saw, some of them not necessarily, right? Garoppolo to the Raiders, I don't know. I mean, he's out there. Is he going to play a full season? No. But is he getting paid? Yeah, he's not getting paid the money that Daniel Jones is getting and all these other guys. And God, I can only imagine what Joe Burrow is going to get. So Garoppolo goes there. Jet fans, I don't know if you're keeping in touch, but Mike White signs with the Dolphins, knowing full well that Aaron Rodgers is coming to the Jets. And I just can't stand this guy. He's absolutely turned into such an unwatchable person. His arrogance, his cockiness, and, he thinks he's going to come to New York. I've said this before. That to me does not make them an instant Super Bowl contender. Not with the Josh Allens, not with the Pat Mahomes, not with the Joe Burrows. So he's got his work cut for him. And then any of this conversation that he says he didn't give the Jets a wish list of who he wants on that team gets completely dismissed by the signing of Alan Lazard. Okay, good good wide receiver, but if that's what Aaron Rodgers says he wants, that's what Aaron Rodgers gets. So, you know what? 39 years old. I just don't see it. I think that's the only choice that they had, right? I mean, they are a talented team. They will contend in the AFC, but I don't think he's the piece that's going to put them over the top. They're still the New York Jets. So we'll see how that goes. But don't try to tell us, Mr. Rodgers, you guys didn't have a wish list and that you've been talking about. And he's coming to the Jets, right? So Sam Darnold goes to the Niners, right? Andy Dalton to the Panthers. I mean, God, how many times? This is like Andy Dalton's fourth team in the past, I don't know, 4 years, actually. So, Baker Mayfield goes to the Tampa. So it looks like that sign is indication they're going to tank for next year's most likely going to be Caleb Williams. So I think the Panthers might trade. He's just a temporary signing. They're not going to win any games with him, but they are going to get the number one pick. And who's going to be that number one pick? Still up in the air. Bryce Young. Is it going to be C.J. Stroud? It's all right pulled into the system that he's going to bring with him to Carolina. So incredible stuff going on. Excuse me, folks. Other big news, right? Ezekiel Elliott. Seems like just 2 years ago, he was holding out, and the Cowboys gave him this big contract, and then all of a sudden, Tony Pollard comes onto the scene, right? And Zeke cut, right? So his formidable days are behind him, but somebody's going to sign him. He's going to make some money. Not quarterback money, not Joe Burrow money, not Mahomes money kind of thing, obviously, because that's not the market for running backs. But I wish Steve was here to see this. The Cowboys are, they're trying to fix what's broken. I think the key is I don't think they know what's broken. And they're going to, they franchised Tony Pollard, rightfully so. He's come on to be one of the top backs in the league. They're going to, but he twice the yes, so you never. That's going to work out. So, Rob, what's your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers coming to New York?
I think you hit it right on the nail, Jim. His arrogance is not going to play well in this town. I mean, the only way you're arrogant in New York City is if you won here, not won somewhere else, won here.
Exactly right.
Okay, so he's going to come in.
Right.
Yeah, the Jet fan base will be excited, like Brett Favre 10 years ago, whatever it was. But if this guy does not succeed, he will be booed off the field, and I want to see how he reacts to that.
Oh, I can't wait till it happens.
It's just sickening. I mean, yeah, it gives the Jets some hope. I understand that. If you're a Jet fan, you're a lot more hopeful you were now than a month ago. But this guy is, I don't know. How's he going to play in the media? I mean, he's in a small.
But they're pinning their hopes on this guy, and again, it's we've seen this movie before, the Jets, right? They brought in like Neil O'Donnell one time, and they brought in, right? Brett Favre and so forth. And Aaron Rodgers, yes, he had a great year last year, but he's 39 years old. And 2 years ago, Ezekiel Elliott had a great year, and now all of a sudden he's looking for work. So, you know what? It's the Jets. And, right now, Daniel Jones is making $4 million in New York. And he, just like you said, Rob, he has to prove himself as well in this town. Because, if you don't win in New York, you don't last in New York. And that's whether it's the Yankees, the Knicks, that's just how it is. So let's see how all that pans out.
He was not great last year. He was not great last year.
Okay. Then so 39. So he was 38 last year. I'm not saying I just don't know how much he's got left in the tank. And you're right. His mental makeup may not sit well in New York, and he's going to, sulk and get fiery with the media and so forth. Listen, good riddance to them. But they're still, like I said, he's got to get through Kansas City, he's got to get through Buffalo, and he's got to get through Cincinnati if he's going to win. And that's a task I just do not think the Jets are ready to take on. So,
yep.
So Rob, we'll talk a little bit about the NBA, because this whole situation, obviously, with this John Morant.
Jim, real quick, let's do the Giants. Yep. Let's do the Giants.
Okay.
That's why I jumped on for it. Giants made a bunch of moves this week. And you know what? I kind of like him.
Hey, listen, I'll take the Derek Waller. He's still that's a presence that they've been lacking for a while, and that's a good move for. Listen, Brian Daboll knows what he's doing. He knows what has to be done. He knows what holes have to be filled. And you're right. There's going to be a lot of changes on the Giants. But Daniel Jones, Brian Daboll said, this is a guy that I can win with. And they're paying him. Yeah.
I mean, you signed Paris Campbell to a 1-year deal. He's a speedster. Right. He had a pretty good year last year. Okay.
Yep.
They bring back Darius Slayton, a guy who they're ready to cut last year, who, aside from one drop in the one game, had a real good rapport with Daniel Jones. And you know what? The kid got paid, and I'm happy about that.
Yep.
So, I mean, I like the direction. And I tell you, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, they smell blood in the water. The Eagles lost both coordinators.
They lost some other players, too.
Yeah. And players. Dallas is a mess right now. And the Redskins don't have a quarterback. So they see this opportunity where, hey, we're a playoff team this year, but with all these teams not really doing much pre-draft, we have a chance to really go up and maybe take this division this year.
Well, that's a good point, Rob, because from a wide receiver perspective, those are two needs, right? The Giants have two needs: a wide receiver and a linebacker, right? They signed a free agent linebacker, but their first pick is gonna be one of those two. I certainly hope it's Luke Whippler, by the way. Maybe in the second round.
Maybe second, yeah.
Yeah. You know what, Rob? I saw a couple of these NFL mock drafts, and again, you can't take much credibility in them because that's just an opinion. But he's shown up, and the job he did at the combine and impressed and moved his stock up. So, he's a big fan of our shows, and we're a big fan of his. So draft day, can't wait. So good point, though. It's got to be a wide receiver, but I don't know. Like I said, Brian Dable realizes the pieces he has to put around Daniel Jones to win. So we'll see.
You got it.
Rob, let's jump into the NBA. And again, we're coming down the stretch. Obviously the Bucks in the East are, the clear favorite with Giannis, and you can see what's been going on with Boston. They're loaded with talent, but they can't beat some of these lowly teams. And how much confidence can you have in them? And of course, Kevin Durant in the West, they're resting him, I guess, quote unquote. Let's call it an ankle injury. He did slip on the floor, did roll his ankle, but they're going to keep him out. The regular season doesn't mean anything. Phoenix is a favorite to win it in the West. But this whole thing with this John Morant, it's just an ugly look for the NBA. Yeah, they just slapped him with, I think, an 8-game suspension yesterday. But, this guy has his whole future ahead of him. He's literally one of the top, 3 young guns up and coming in the NBA, and he's walking around strip clubs flashing a gun. It's insane to me. He's getting counseling and so forth. But you know what? This guy's career could be in jeopardy if he doesn't turn this around. If he's that unstable that he can post a video of him waving a gun in a nightclub, I mean, you have to really question his mental makeup. And sometimes, listen, somebody could right the ship. Somebody could come in there and say, just what I said. This is your future that you're messing with. And I don't know who that person is. Or it could go the other way and just continue to spiral out of control. But you know what? He's so talented. The league needs these kind of players. So, they just sent he's not ready to come back yet. So an 8-game suspension by Adam Silver is just, that's just kind of symbolic. It doesn't really mean a hell of a lot, right? But I will say this about this Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets, now that they got rid of all that garbage, right? They sink Durant and Harden and experiment failed, right? We know that. But again, I don't hang Sean Marks on it, but they're playing pretty good. And I think they can even beat the Knicks, who, listen, the Knicks are up and down team. What a market improvement for them over last year. No question about it. Randall, he's actually a pretty good player when he has his head on straight. But the Knicks, can they compete? I don't know that the Knicks can beat Cleveland. I really don't. And that may be the first round matchup. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Brooklyn can actually go farther than the New York Knicks in the playoffs. And nobody's going to beat the Bucks in the East. Nobody's going to beat them. So
here's the one thing, Jim, about the Nets you got to look out for. During this, besides all the draft picks they received, and Mikal Bridges, who's a budding superstar, okay, he could be that next level guy, right? They also somehow with the trades they made and the draft picks, I believe there's an $18.2 million trade exception they can use this summer to bring in another star. We're not talking a KD Kyrie guy, but maybe someone just below that, kind of like the Knicks and Brunson. So look for that trade piece to be the final step to really building a really good team there that could be a contender again.
Well, listen, you're a Nets fan, right? And you
Yes.
see this. And I don't know who that missing piece is. I think you got to let this play itself out with if you're going to put your chips on Mikal Bridges and, maybe he can be that dominant player. I don't know what superstar, quote unquote, you could bring in.
I mean,
to
you're
push
probably
them
looking
over
like a Zach LaVine. like another scorer who's not like the eccentric guys we had here already. You know,
Yeah.
hey,
Okay.
there's the whispers that Trey Young is not happy in Atlanta. He could be a Trey Young could be the guy. It could be Devin Booker in Phoenix, like the guy, or Shy Alexander, wherever the guy is from Oklahoma City. A guy like that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about. A young guy
Gilgeous
who's gonna come in.
Alexander.
Yeah, so that $18.2 million exception is going to be huge to bring in that one more. It could be a current star or another Mikal Bridges who's that one step away. Hey, Mikal Bridges, since he came to the Nets, is averaging 30 points a game.
Now he is. You just have to
And they're fun
wonder
to
because
watch.
he's had some off the court issues too. So you got to be careful with him.
I think not Bridges.
I think
I
so.
think you're thinking of the guy from from Charlotte.
I thought
The
it
guy
was
from
Bridges.
Charlotte.
All right.
The guy from Charlotte who's not playing right now because right before the season he had domestic violence against him. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's
very similar name. Very similar name.
okay. All right. I thought it was Bridges. So that actually makes me feel better that, they didn't bring in a thug from with a ton of baggage. I just think that it might upset, the momentum the Nets have been building. Trey Young is, he would be the star on the team. And can he work with these guys? Who knows? But like I said, no one in the East is going to beat the Bucks anyway. And I think the Celtics have shown that they're too inconsistent. I don't know if there's turmoil they've had. The coaching situation has been a mess, but we'll keep an eye on that. So Rob, listen, I know I'm trying to get you to be an NHL hockey fan, and the NHL playoffs are coming up real soon. And the Rangers are starting to pull it together. Patrick Kane is starting to fit in. They're trying to figure out who's best he could play with. But this is a real tough situation because the Devils are a real formidable team. This guy, Jack Hughes, pretty much has come out of nowhere. I know he was like one of the top picks and so forth, but, I didn't expect that to happen. And they're a really, really good team. So the Eastern Conference in the NHL includes the Boston Bruins, who have been, week after week, just, winning games. And that's going to be a tough task to beat them, no matter who it is. But you got to, keep your eye on guys like Connor McDavid, who's just been lighting the lamp, and it's been awesome to see. But you know what? In that conference, I'm not sure who the team to beat is. But I think overall, the Rangers have done a great job and put themselves in position to contend. But if they're going to have, the NHL, Rob, I've always told you it's the hardest trophy in sports to win.
Well, like I said, with the Devils being in play, I will watch the NHL playoffs.
Good.
I will be into the Devils. Again, I lived in Vegas for almost 2 years. I'll follow the, see what Vegas is doing. So I'll be a lot more into it once the playoffs start.
All right, well, let's come in. We got like 16 games left in the regular season. And listen, when you talk about the NHL, it's possible that you could play 4 7-game series to win the Stanley Cup. That's almost another third of a season. And these guys don't have a long off season like baseball and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I can't admire these NHL players. They get their teeth knocked out by a puck in the face, and they're right back on the ice. It's amazing to see. But I'm psyched about the Rangers. Happy that the Devils there, and the Islanders might get in as well. So, but that's a long road to win. And that's why NHL hockey goes till June now, it seems incredible, but loving the NHL. Major League Baseball, Rob, is right around the corner. But this was a big blow for the New York Mets. Edwin Diaz, gets hurt just jumping up and down, doing nothing in the World Baseball Classic. which, by the way, has been exciting. But it always then conversations start immediately about, should these guys, and you knew it was going to happen. If Mike Trout got hurt in the baseball classic, people would say, well, why the hell is Mike Trout playing in this? And, is it patriotism? I don't know. I think it's a good idea that these guys play. They're playing baseball anyway. It's spring training. They're going to be playing baseball. You can't lock these guys in a closet. And it's good, it's a good experience. And I think the World Baseball Classic, I think I kind of enjoyed it. And, there's good teams in there. And these are a lot of Major League Baseball players. But, I can see now the frustration on the Met fans saying, oh boy, here we go. And could we rightfully have expected Edwin Diaz to have the kind of season he did last year? That would be a big ask. Because the year before, Edwin Diaz wasn't the Edwin Diaz from last year. And, the Mets with Scherzer and Verlander, I don't know. You can't just, open the yellow pages and find a top-notch closer. And, I think the closer is going to be David Robinson. And David Robinson hasn't been David Robertson like when he was with the Yankees. So that's a stopgap that's going to have to be filled at some point. And injuries are always part of this, and we'll go through it. Carlos Rodon, like I said, is already injured for a high price free agent for the Yankees. But Judge is the cornerstone and the foundation of that team. But the Yankees didn't do much. They stood pat, and I don't know that they improved themselves over last year at all. If Josh Donaldson, Giancarlo Stanton's going to miss as usual 40, 50 games. And there's a comment from Jeremy Bennett, Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, the 92 Mets, worst team money could buy, right? That sounds to me like it was Bobby Bonilla era. So I don't remember exactly, but Cohen is spending the money, but that doesn't make them an instant contender to win a World Series title. And losing Edwin Diaz was a big blow. So, but everyone's getting hit with the injuries, right? The Dodgers are a team that has a lot of talent, but they lost their starting shortstop for the season, Lux. So Major League Baseball, 162 game season. All the talk radio and all this other stuff in New York, just like we talked about it with the Jets and the Giants. It's the Mets and the Yankees, right? But there are other teams in this league, and the landscape of this is going to change starting next year. Let's see, was that Bobby Bo? Yes. So thank you, Jeremy. And Jeremy, by the way, all my best to you. And I know your mother's not feeling so well, but absolute heartfelt, wishes from Sports with Mono and Mono to your mom. And thanks for being a loyal listener. And Jeremy is one of those guys I referenced before because he's one of Steve's friends, and he's got issues at home as well. So, the love that he shared, and I appreciate it. And all my best to your mom. And Jeremy actually sent me a picture of his mom from early days. I don't know. It looked like the 70s with a young Robert Shaw from Jaws and this thing. That was a great picture. Thanks. Right. So let's move on. Right. We got a couple other things I want to get to, but I wanted to bring up some random points of interest, which, of course, is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, who I know was out celebrating St. Patrick's Day yesterday. And there's this Irish band I know that he loves, the Dropkick Murphys. I was actually listening to the Dropkick Murphys yesterday on St. Patrick's Day as well. So couple of things, right? This Trevor Bauer, my feelings on having this guy anywhere near Major League Baseball. Well, I think they all got together and said, this guy is not playing Major League Baseball anymore. He's oh my God, I don't even know what kind of an animal this guy is. So he goes to Japan. Okay. Never watched a Japanese game before. probably never will. So go ahead, go to Japan. They're going to pay you, good. But we don't have to hear about you week after week. And I just hope it stays that way and nobody who gets in a pinch, says we need a pitcher, do we make this move, Trevor Bauer? Listen, morals, they just don't seem to have the priority that I think they should in sports. So it's not out of the question. But for now, good riddance, go to Japan. And another random point of interest was because last week, I don't know, Rob, my monologue was Jim Boeheim and his 47 years at Syracuse. And, I think he did a great job there and had a lot of talent. But something happened last week. There's a guy named Brent Axe from Syracuse who hosts like Syracuse basketball and so forth. And he got fired. And you know why he got fired? Because he was critical of Jim Boeheim. And now you could say, well, that's absurd. Yes, it is absurd. And apparently, Jim Boeheim has a relationship with the owner of this station that Syracuse and Brent Axe broadcasted on. Jim Boeheim got him fired. And I find it to be incredible that somebody could even say, yeah, we're going to fire him because we disagree with the way Jim Boeheim has been taking the team the past few years. But isn't that what this show and any show is all about? Why can't we be critical? If you want to be lauded all the time, then you have to win all the time. And all he points out, and I know a lot of Syracuse basketball fans that find this to be distasteful, the way this whole situation ended. I know it wasn't his decision to step down, it was the university's, but time caught up with him. But now he's going to even host his own radio show. And if you could spend 2 seconds listening to Jim Boeheim, I went from doing a monologue praising the guy to finding him to be deplorable for the acts that he got this guy fired. It's incredible to me. Incredible. So I watched the Ranger game the other night. They played the Washington Capitals, right? And, I had my Mark Messier jersey last week on in Steve's honor. And Mark Messier, I never heard him called. He did the color on the broadcast with Steve Levy. And he's not 100% articulate, but, his resume speaks for itself. And he did an absolutely great job. And this was again in New York, where he absolutely walks on water, and rightfully so. He came to New York and he brought them the Stanley Cup they haven't had in 100 years. And he did a great job. I really enjoyed that combination in the booth. So I look for Messier. He's been a studio guy for a while, but he is an absolute legend in the game and great insight to the game. Something special. Always a place in our heart for Mr. Messier, known as the captain, right? Even before Derek Jeter. Now, Rob, I don't know. You're more on the production side of things. So this Diamond Sports Group, which owned the rights to broadcast Major League Baseball games for at least 14 teams, filed for bankruptcy. And I don't know what that means. Like I said, they seem to still be operating. They don't have any money. So, what is Major League Baseball going to do? You know what I think is going to happen? If they don't pay Major League Baseball that money, then Major League Baseball is going to go out there somewhere and force these local teams to pay to stream games. You may know a little bit more about the whole Diamond Sports Group thing, but do you see this as a prerequisite to having to pay to watch, just like we're going to have to pay Amazon to watch Yankee games on Friday night?
Well,
What do you know about this?
Actually, I haven't heard about that. I'll have to check into it.
Hold on. I haven't heard about that, so I have to check into it. But let me preface this by saying, when I watch the Yankees or the Brooklyn Nets, I'm watching on my smart TV on my Yes app. All right, so that circumvents me watching Channel 70 on, our local cable network. So that's probably the trend will be like the Amazons of the world. And I remember hearing this about a month ago. The Yes Network or the Yankees themselves are developing another app that would be a way to watch the Yankees, but there's going to be a paywall behind it. So I don't know if that
That's
means
exactly right.
yeah. So that's probably the future. And I tell you, I mean, we're a small blip on the screen right now, but that's what we're heading towards too. I mean, we're gonna have sports on the air, and eventually they're gonna have to pay a little bit for it because somehow the talent has to get
Yes.
paid, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
just so you know, Mike
I
is
mean,
ready
there's
to
no
go.
money around. But I think what drives sports fans crazy is like, how much more are we going to have to continue to pay just to watch these? And that's why you can't afford to go to games. But if it's the only game in town, they're actually forcing your hand. And yeah, I think from a New York market, we're lucky that we've had right SNY and the Yes Network, which is it's more than just broadcasting Yankee games. But you're right. Maybe that is the trend. But I don't know what went on with this Diamond Sports thing and the ramifications it's going to have for people. But Rob, I think you hit it right on the head. We're going to
And
have to
let me
pay
tell you,
more.
Jim, let me tell you, I live stream high school sports, pro sports, right? I don't want to hear anybody complain about the quality of my live stream because when I'm watching the Yes Network and I'm trying to watch the Brooklyn Nets game, you'd be surprised how wonky that signal gets, and that's the Yes Network. So I don't want to hear anybody complain about what I'm putting out if the Yes Network buffers half the time anyway.
Yeah.
And Mike's here by the
Well,
way.
we'll
Just so you
see.
know.
Okay. Hey, Mike.
Mike's in the queue. Should I bring him in?
Yes, I'm bringing in, and this is our new segment, because nobody on our show ever takes anything for granted, and our loyal listeners are what makes us who we are. And there he is, one of the original loyal listener of the show. How you doing, Mike?
Good, mono squared, man, from long distance.
Uh, Lower your phone a little so we can see your whole mug. Good, good.
I like.
So, Mike, first of all, like I said, I want to thank you for being a loyal supporter of our show from day one. You never missed the show, and now you got your boys listening to the show.
No.
So thank you. And we're going to bring our loyal list on little by little and thank them personally because we're nothing without you guys, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim. But it's a pleasure to listen to the show. It makes you make it easy.
So give me an idea. So what's good about the show? What's not so good about the show? I'm open for criticism. And like I said, Rob fills in for Steve and so forth. But do we cover something too much? Do we not cover something enough?
I think
the
only thing I think is the gambling. That's it. It's so prevalent now that like to make a show, you have to talk about gambling. And I know you're against that,
I am against it. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, the show's great.
You're thinking maybe because I'm not bringing up point spreads and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all people really care about, like my boys and stuff.
I know, but Mike, when I hear an advertisement, and I heard this the other day for FanDuel, and the advertisement said, only bet what you can afford to lose. And that to me as a marketing slogan, it's shocking. I mean, I just can't believe. I listen, I don't have a problem with people gambling on sports. I honestly don't.
Right. I don't either.
I think, but the fact that they're tied and sponsored by the major sports it just seems like a conflict of interest I can't get away from.
Yeah, I hear you. It's wrong, but it's part of the thing now, like smoking pot, now all of a sudden that's legal, stuff we never thought would ever be legal.
Right.
because
You're right.
the world is crumbling.
Well, you're down there in the sunny Naples, and it's going to be tennis season before we know it, right?
Well, this today actually, I was going to bring it up. I have it down. Is the men's semifinals of Indian Wells, and that
Yeah.
Alcaraz kid, who's going to be a legend for
I
15,
agree.
20 years, is playing. I think tonight at 6.
Okay.
But I know it's hard. I mean, I was watching tennis and I missed basketball, and then I don't know. And then the
Yep.
Rangers are on tonight on ABC against
Yep.
against the Penguins. So there's a lot of sports, man.
There is, and listen, just full disclosure, Mike and I go way back. He's one of my dearest all-time friends, Niagara University graduate. And Mike, I just wanted to thank you for coming on the show. And like I said, we thank you and all of our loyal listeners. And you're not going to be the last loyal listener on the show, but thanks for joining
Okay.
us from sunny
Thanks.
Naples.
Best to Steve, okay?
I will. Thank you,
All right.
Mike. I appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
See ya. All right, so Rob, that was Mike from Naples, and again, we're gonna do it's kind of loyal listener appreciation moment on the show. And again, we don't have to appreciate you because you're on the show, but we do appreciate you. But we'll fill you in on the next loyal listener, and thanks for pulling that one off for us. So, Rob, before we move on to our notable passings, I got a video that I sent you. If you could post this, because it's related to basketball, and it happens to be my grandson. Rob, can you run that little 20 seconds? And do we have the video, Rob? Because it's been a basketball themed show, so I wanted to show this.
I just played it. I'll play it again.
I didn't see it.
Hold on.
We'll. All right, we're having a production issue because I can't see the video, but so proud of my.
It played twice. It played twice.
Yeah, but who
Maybe you
saw
can't
it? Anybody?
I know it played twice. You'll see it on the replay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, Rob, let's move on to our notable passing segment, okay? And this was a big one. It happened literally, found out about it, just after last week's show. Bud Grant, former coach of the Minnesota Vikings, who Steve and I were just huge fans of his. But what a resume this guy had. Obviously, we know him for coaching the Vikings to 4 Super Bowls. Didn't win any of them, which is kind of like the stigma of why he's not considered, in the Tom Landry type class. But he was awesome. And the funny thing was he played in both the NBA and won a championship with the Lakers in 1950, and then played a couple seasons for the Philadelphia Eagles in the National Football League. So, he was a hell of a college player at the University of Minnesota. But that's a big loss in the NFL. And Rob, if you remember, he came on the field, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. It was like 30 below. And he had a short sleeve shirt on. He was literally 90 years old. But I think his name is Harry Peter Grant, but we know him as Bud. He was 95 years old, and that's a notable passing for sure. Another one, Rob, from the locals here, Joe Pepitone, right? think he's referenced on a couple of Seinfeld episodes as well. Joe Pepitone played for the Yankees, and he was pretty good. I think he's more known for the first one to bring a hair dryer into the locker room than he was as a player, but he had a couple of really good seasons. Joe Pepitone was 82, and I don't know if he actually won a World Series for the Yankees. I don't know, Rob, if you could look that up, but I don't think he did. I think his heyday was like 1962, 63. So he could have been on those teams that won a World Series. And I'm not 100% sure. But another one, Robin, this is, college basketball talk most of the show today. Felton Spencer, who was, an absolute standout at University of Louisville. I think he made the Final Four, if not the finals at Louisville. But I think he was a 3-time All-American. And he was only 55 years old. But I remember Felton Spencer playing journeyman in the NBA. Didn't have much of a career, but I think he holds the all-time Louisville. And Louisville's had some players over the years. Career field goal percentage for a lot of history there.
Are you ready? Joe Pepitone won the World Series in '62.
Okay.
Three-time All-Star, 3-time Golden Glove Award winner.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
And he had a head of hair like our producer Rob there, He was known. He was a good-looking guy, but
it takes time,
I know. But here's a perfect example of Joe Pepitone, always did the right thing. And what did he get out of it? He was always at, social events the Yankees would play. This is the post-career, right? You kind of do that thing the way George Martin did for the Giants and all these guys, which is why Tiki Barber doesn't have that standing invitation from the New York Giants, because he blew things up as he was walking out the door. So, if your career and you're kind to people and you gave 100% on the field, you have a job for life for that particular team. And I'm actually glad that Joe Pepitone won in 1962. That was, the year after the Roger Maris 61 home run season, which obviously was broken by Aaron Judge this year. But anyway, so again, thank you for all the wishes for Steve. He's going to be back with us at some point. I know that. He's determined. He's had a great support structure, and he's a tough kid. He was an athlete, and athletes have a desire to do things that some people can't do, and he has a desire to win, and he's going to win this battle as well. And just can't wait to have him on the show again soon. So thanks for joining us. And listen, of course, send us an email at sportswithmano@gmail.com. And because we love to hear from you. We love your thoughts. And you guys know who our loyal listeners are. And you never know who's going to be called to arms on the next show. But Rob, I thank you for pulling that together. And thanks to Mike Garvey for joining the show. So folks, you got a lot of sports to watch today. And I'm excited as hell to watch the college basketball because it's just absolutely outstanding. And right, Mike brings up a point. So you're going to be flipping back with the Rangers versus, the NCAA. And, the only channel I know I could skip is the NBA because NBA is not interesting until playoffs start. So Rob, thanks for pulling the trigger today on these things. And hopefully that video comes up because I didn't see it on the screen. So Rob assures us it's going to be on the rebroadcast. So again, thanks everybody. Enjoy the weekend. Hope you had a great St. Patrick's Day. And we will see you same time next week. Thanks for joining. See you guys.